Welcome to today's lesson. And in our lesson today, we're going to look at the amortized loans. So, an amortized loan is a loan that requires equal payments over its life. Now, when you say its life, we're basically talking about the period of payment for the loan. Okay, so last time we did mention that whenever we are looking at the amortized loan, basically the concept of the equal payment, that basically tells us that we are looking at annuity. And the formula that we'll focus on is the formula for present value of ordinary annuity. Okay, so we had said that present value of ordinary annuity is equal to P, okay, open brackets, shall say 1 minus, okay, the discounting factor to the power negative n, then you close the brackets, then over R. Now, where the PVO, this one is being described as the present value, okay, or the so-called the loaned amount. Then we have the P there. Okay, this P, we describe it as the equal payment. So if the payment is annual, that means that is what you'll be paying. If it's monthly, that means the P value is what you're going to be paying. Then also we have the R there that represents the interest rate. Okay, then the N there basically represents the period, okay, for the loan. Okay, so whenever you are given a question, this is the formula that we use on amortization, and you have to calculate the value of P so that you can know how much are you going to be paying, either monthly or either yearly. Okay, so to help us understand this, we can look at an example. And the question reads, in order to start his own business, okay, Kumero borrowed a 70,000 from his bank at a stated interest rate of 6% per annum and agreed to repay the loan in equal monthly installment over 2 years. So there's a monthly component there. That basically tells us that this is a frequent, okay, frequent compounding. Okay, what we mean is that we're going to have the value of M as being equal to 12 because there are 12 months in a particular year. Okay, so the question continues to say, required, calculate the effective annual interest rate. Okay, the effective annual interest rate. So what do we do there? we are told that the effective annual interest rate is equal to 1 plus R, then divide by M, okay, to the power M, then minus 1. Okay, so what do we do there? We shall say 1 plus the rate there being a 6%. When you divide the 6% divide by 100, you're going to have 0.06. Okay, divide by the M, which happens to be 12, to the power 12, then minus 1. Okay, so the 0.06 divided by 12 is going to give us 0.005 to the power 12, then minus 1. Okay, so we continue. 1 plus 0.005 is going to be 1.005 to the power 12, then minus 1. Okay, so therefore 1.005 to the power 12, this one should be able to give us something like 1.0671 minus 1, which will be equal to 0.0617. Okay, so it being a rate that's supposed to be expressed in percentages, when you multiply the 0.0617 multiplied by 100, you will discover that our effective annual rate is going to be equal to 6.17%. Okay, so writing this question like that, you walk away with 3 marks. Okay, so this was 3 marks. Okay, we continue. We'll now look at the B part. Calculate Kumero's required monthly payment. Here, we want to look at how much will Kumero be paying monthly, okay, for that loan of 70,000 at an stated interest of 6% for a period of 2 years. Okay, so this is the frequent compounding, or what we call as intra-year compounding. So, meaning the value of M, so the rate there will be divided by M, and also the N will be multiplied by M. So our formula is going to be modified a bit. Okay, our formula will be modified a bit. So we're going to have something that looks like this, where we're going to say the present value being equal to the equal payment, then 1 minus open bracket 1 plus R divided by M, okay, to the power Mn, then divide by R divided by M. Okay, so after we write our formula, we can now substitute. Our aim is to see to it that we calculate the equal payment, which is the monthly payment. Okay, so our loaned amount there, we have 70,000 being equal to the value of P is the one that we want to calculate. So we shall say 1 minus 1 plus, what is our rate there? Our rate happens to be a 6%, which is 0.06 divided by monthly, which is the 12 there, okay, minus, that is going to be M being 12, the period being 2, okay, we close like that, going to say over the rate, still 0.06, then divide by 12. Okay, so what do we do there? We are going to say that 70,000 being equal to P. Okay, so this is what we are going to do. Now, this 0.06, when it's divided by 12, it's going to give us 0.005. Okay, when you add to the 1, we're going to have something that looks like 1 minus 1.005 to the power negative 24. Okay, like that. That's negative 24. Then divide 0.06 divided by 12, still going to give us 0.005 in this case. Okay, so we continue. We are going to say that 70,000, okay, being equal to P, so we shall say 1 minus 1.005 to the power negative 24. That's going to give us 0.8, then 71, then 85, then 668 there, divide by 0.005. Okay, so this one's supposed to be 0.005. Okay, so we continue. When you subtract 1 minus 0.887185,668, we're going to have 70,000 being equal to a P, okay, 0.11, okay, 28, 14, 3, 2, okay, divide by 0.005. So you're going to divide now. It's going to be 70,000 being equal to, when you divide 0.112814,332 divided by 0.005, it's going to give us a 22.5628, then 664 with a P there. Now, knowing fully well that we're interested in the P, you divide both sides by 22.56 at 28,664, okay, divide by 22.56, okay, 28,664, okay. we'll divide both sides by that value. Then we're going to say that our equal payment, which is our equal monthly payment, it's going to be 70,000 divided by 22.5628,664. And our answer there, it's going to be 3,102.44 as our monthly payment. We continue as we look at the next part of the question. So the C part, we are told to prepare an amortization schedule. Okay. So how do we prepare this? Now, knowing fully well that we have the value for the monthly payment, that's going to be easier to look at other component of this question. Now, take note. Whenever we are looking at this question, we need to come up with a table that looks like this. Okay? Where we're going to have the period. We are also going to have opening balance. We're also going to have payment, which is an equal payment. We're also going to have the interest. Now, take note, this interest is basically focused on the opening balance. So, remember we had the 6% there. So, the 6% divided by 12 is what will be our interest here. Okay? So, 6% of the 6%, if you divide that by 12, you should be able to give us 0.5. 0.5% will be our percentage. So this is how it's going to be. Divide by 12, that will be 0.5%, of which this 0.5%, we know it's 0.005. You divide it by 100. Okay? Then here we have got repayment of a principal, meaning the amount that we are taking off from the principal of 70,000. Okay, every year, every month, sorry, will be recorded. And also, we need to have the closing balance. Now, the closing balance in year one becomes the opening balance in year two. Okay, so we can start here by writing our opening balance of a loan as 70,000. Then the payment. We know already that our payment was 3,102, okay, 0.44. Now, on the interest is going to be based on the opening balance. So if your interest is 5%, divide the 5% by 100, is going to give us 0.005. So 0.005 multiplied by 70,000. That's going to give us, a 350. Okay. Now, when we talk about repayment of a principal, this is what happens. We are paying this part, the 3,102.44. Then in this value, a 350 is an interest. So meaning the balance that's going to remain is checking out our closing or opening balance. Okay. So the easiest way there to find part or repayment of a principal, it is just to subtract your payment, okay, minus 350. Okay, that's going to give us a 2,000, okay, 752, okay, 0.44. So meaning your payment minus your interest is supposed to give us the repayment of a principal. So take note there, that note number 1. Okay, repayment of principal is going to be equal to your equal payments minus the interest. Okay. Now, your closing balance also. Number 2, your closing balance, it will be equal to your opening balance. Okay, your opening balance minus your repayment of principal. Okay, so like the way it is, we have scrapped off the principal by 2,752.44. Once you subtract that from the 70,000, you discover that our closing balance in this case, it's going to be 67,000, okay, 247.56. Okay, so that becomes our closing balance in this case. So we continue. So if it's a closing balance, that means in period 2, that's going to be the opening balance. So I'm going to say that the opening balance in this case is 67,247.56. Remember, the equal payment will be the same throughout the period. Now, it will be this percent, which is a 0.005 multiplied by the opening balance. Okay, that is going to be 6.24, meaning 336.24. When you subtract this value from the payment, it's supposed to give us the repayment of a principal. And the repayment of a principal in this case is going to be 2,766.20. Okay, so the difference of the opening balance and the repayment of a principal, it's going to give us 64,481.35. Okay, 0.35. So we continue. The closing balance here is going to be the opening, which will be 64,481.35. Okay, the eco payment, that one still remains the same. You'll be required to pay that amount of money. Throughout the period. $3,102.44. So 3,102.44. Okay. Now, so the 5% or the 0.005 or 0.5% of the 64,481.35, that one is going to be 322.41. Okay, so the difference of the payment and the interest is going to be 2,780, okay, 0.04. Okay, then the closing balance in this case, since we know that closing balance is opening balance minus repayment, that's going to be 61,000, okay, 701.32. Okay, we continue. That becomes our opening balance in period 4. So we're going to say our opening balance is 61,701.32. Okay, 0.005 multiplied by the opening balance for period 4. It's going to give us 308.51. Then repayment of a principal, payment minus interest. That's going to give us a 2,000, okay, 900 and so 2,793, okay, 0.94. Then the closing balance, of course, which is going to be 61,701.32 minus 2,793.94. We're going to have a 58,907, okay, 0.38. Okay, so that closing balance for period 4 becomes our opening balance for period 5. We're going to say 58,907.38. Okay, 0.38. Now, that opening balance multiplied by 0.005, it's going to give us a 294.54. Okay, repayment of a principal, 3102.44 minus 294.54. It's going to give us 2,807, okay, 0.90. Okay, the closing balance, of course, we have got the opening balance minus the repayment of the principal. Okay, what will be the closing balance? That will be 56,099, okay, 0.48. Now we continue. The opening balance is going to be 56,099.48. Multiply this by the interest rate, which is expressed as 0.0005. That is period 6. We're going to get 280.50. Then subtract this interest from the payment. It's going to give us the 28, okay, 21.94. Then this equal payment, or this repayment, repayment of a principal, subtract it from the opening balance, which is 56,099.48 minus 2,821.94. This is going to give us 53,277, okay, 0.54. Okay, we continue. Remember, the closing balance here is going to be the opening balance as 53,277.54. Okay, so this opening balance multiplied by 0.005, it's going to give us a 266. So 266.39. Then you subtract payment minus the 266.39, payment being 3,102.44 minus 266.39. That is going to give us 2,000, okay, 850.23. Then you subtract your payment, which is the 2,850.23, okay, from the 53,277.54, which is the opening balance. It's going to give us a closing balance, okay, of 50,000, okay, 441.49. Okay, so your closing balance becomes the opening balance in period 8. Going to say 50,441.49. Now 50,441.49 multiplied by 0.005, which is our interest there. This is going to give us 252.21. Okay, so subtract the 252.21 from 3,104.44. It's going to give us 2,878, okay, 0.84. 0.81. Then the payment of a principal being subtracted from the opening balance, which is 50,441.48. Okay, that's going to give us 47,591. Okay, point 26. Okay, so being the closing balance, the 47,591.26 becomes the opening balance. So we are going to do the 0.005 multiplied by the 47,591.26. That is going to give us our interest, okay, of 237, okay, 0.96. Okay, subtracting the 237.96 from 3,102.44. Okay, that is going to give us 2,864.46. Okay, then part of this repayment, or the repayment of the principal, which is the 2,864.48 being subtracted from the 47,591.26. Okay, it's going to give us the 44,726. Okay, 0.78. So 44,726.78 becomes the opening balance. Okay, so we multiply this by 0.005. It's going to give us the interest for that year, which happens to be a 223, okay, 0.63. Now, this being the interest, the difference of the 223.63 from 3,102.44 becomes the repayment of a principal. And that repayment of a principal, it's going to be 2,878. $878.81. Okay, 2,878.81. When you subtract this value from the opening balance, you should be able to get something like 41,847.97. Yeah, something like that. So this is going to be your opening balance in period 11, which is 847.97. Okay, so this being the opening balance, multiply this by the interest, which is a 0.005, multiplied by 41,847.97. This is going to give us, we're in period 11, it's going to give us 209. 0.24, subtract 209.24 from the equal payment, which is 3,102.44. We are going to have the repayment of the principal, okay, to be 2,900, so 2,893.20. Okay, so repayment of a principal of 2,893.20 being subtracted from 41,847.97. It's going to give us a 38,954, okay, 0.77. Okay, meaning that becomes our opening balance, which is 38,954.77. Now the opening balance is going to be multiplied by 0.005, okay, which is in period 12. That's going to give us an interest of 194, okay, 0.77. 194.77, subtracting the 194.77 from 3,102.44. That is going to give us the repayment, okay, of the principal to be 2,907.67. 2,907.67 being subtracted from 38,954.77. That is going to give us the closing balance of 36,000, okay, 047.10. Okay, so kindly go through thoroughly in case of any rounding off value or any rounding off error. Okay, we continue. We look at period 13 and the rest of the period. So we are done with the first year. Going to the next year, because this was supposed to be paid in 2 years. Okay, so due to space, the other table is on the next slide. Okay, so here we are beginning with a 36,047.10. So remember, the equal payment is still the same. $3,102.44, 3,102.44, 3,102.44, 3,102.44, 3,102.44. Okay, so that is the equal payment. So we continue. The interest being 0.5% as usual, whereby when you divide it by 100, it's going to be 0.005. Okay. So 0.05 of 36,047.10. It's going to give us 180.24. Subtract 180.24 from 3,102.44. It's going to give us 2,000, okay, 922.20. Okay. Closing balance, we're going to subtract opening balance minus 2,922.20. That is going to give us a 33,124.90. Okay. So your closing balance becomes the opening in period 14, which is 33,124.90. Multiply that by 0.005. It's going to give us 165, okay, 0.62. Okay, 165.62. Subtract the 165.62 from 3,102.44. It's going to give us 2,936.882. So subtracting the 2,936.82 from 33,124.90, it's going to give us a closing balance of 30,188.08. Okay. So that becomes our opening balance, which is 30,188.80. So multiplying this by 0.005, we're going to have an interest of 150.94. Okay, 150.94. Subtracting 150.94 from 3,102.44, it's going to give us 2,951.50. Okay. Subtracting this 2,951.50 from 30,188.08, this is going to give us a 27,000, okay, 236, okay, 0.58. Now this being the closing balance, it's going to be the opening balance in period 16, which is 27,236.58. Okay. Multiplying 27,236.58 multiplied by 0.005. Okay, what are we getting there as the interest? It's going to give us an interest of 136.18, subtracting 136.18 from 3,102.44. It's going to give us 2,966.25. Okay, 6.25. Subtracting this from the opening balance, you are going to have a 270.33. Okay, so that becomes our opening balance, period 17, which is 24,270.33. Multiplied by 0.005, our interest is going to be it's going to be 121.35. Excuse, 0.35. Subtracting the 121.35 from 3,102.44, that is going to give us a 2,981. Okay, 0.09. 2,981.09, subtracting it from the 24,270.33, it's going to give us a 21,289.24. That becomes your opening balance of 21,289.24. Multiplying 21,289.24, multiplying it by 0.005, we're going to have an interest of 106.45. Subtracting 106.45 from 3,102.44, it's going to give us the repayment of the principal, okay, of 2,995.99. Okay, subtracting the 2,995.99 from 21,289.24, that is going to give us 18,000, okay, 293.25, okay, which happens to be the closing. So in period 19, that's going to be our opening, 10,293.25, multiplying it by 0.005. Okay, that's going to give us 91. Okay, point what? 0.47. So 91.47, subtracting the 91.47 from the 3,102.44, that is going to give us a 3,010.97. Subtracting the 3,010.97 from 18,293.25, that is going to give us a 15,282.28. Okay, opening balance in period 20, that's going to be 15,000 282.28. Multiplying that one by 0.005, it's going to give us 76.41. Okay, so 76.41, subtracting it from 3,102.44, that's going to give us 3,026.03. Subtracting this from the opening balance, which is 15,202.28, we're going to have a 12,256.19. Okay, so that's going to be our opening balance in period 2021. It's 12,256.19. Okay, multiplied by the interest rate, which is 0.005 in period 21. That's going to give us 61.28. Okay, 61.28. Subtracting 61.28 from 3,102.44, that is going to give us 3,000, okay, and 41.16. Subtracting 3,041.16 from 12,256.19, that is going to give us a 9,000, okay, 215.03. That becomes our opening. That becomes our opening. So what do we do in period 22? It is 9,215.03. Okay, multiplying it by 0.005, that's going to give us a 46.08. Okay, subtracting 46.08 from the 3,102.44, we are going to have a 3,056, okay, 0.37. Okay, so subtracting this from the opening balance, which is 9,215.03, we're going to have a 6,158.66. Okay, so period 23. Opening balance, it's going to be 6,158.66. Now, 6,158.66 multiplied by 0.005. That is going to give us a 30.99, such that when you subtract it from 3,102.44, it's going to give us 3,071.65. Okay, so subtracting this payment from the opening balance, we're going to have 3,087.10, which will now be our opening balance in period 24, which is 3,000, okay, and 87.10. Okay, multiply this by 0.005. are going to have 15.44. Okay, 15.44. Then subtract 15.44 from 3,100 and 02.44. That should be able to give us something like 3,000, okay, 800 and 3,087.01. Okay, so this one I think should be 03. That is 15.43. Subtracting it from 3,102.44 should be able to give us 3,087.01. Subtracting it from the opening balance, it should be able to give us a 0.00. Okay, that means that the loan has been exhausted in 2 years and in a period of 24 months. So this question was carrying 18 marks. It was carrying 18 marks, as we can see there. The question is 18 marks. So the whole question was totaling up to 25 marks. Okay. So this one, okay, you get your 4 marks. And the last one there, you get your 18 marks for producing this